Hello, everyone. Hope you are extremely well. To everybody that's watching this, we are here with Adi Kaimowitz. He is the founder and CEO of Virtual Actuary. It's quite a big company now. It also started as a little company a few years back. Now they're doing at the moment around 36 million revenue annually. So it's definitely someone we can listen to. We'll be speaking about breakthrough economics. So just basically what that entails is how small companies can be big, how small bits big. So this is especially for people that's looking to start their own businesses in the future, or even current startup founders that just want to understand breakthrough economics better and what it is that some small companies actually go out and beat the big companies. Because all the big companies today, Google, Facebook, Amazon, the biggest companies in the world, even in South Africa, Naspers, you name the company, everyone started small. So, Adi, over to you. What would you say are some of the reasons? First, if you just want to introduce breakthrough economics in your own words, and then just after that, why do some small companies actually grow into massive successful companies?
Hello, Hugo, and hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here. Breakthrough economics means that if a startup or a small business is going to try to play on the same field as a big business, as a big competitor, you cannot be doing things in the same way. Because if you are doing things in the same way, you don't have the budget or the traction to be able to compete. You can't be having a marketing campaign where people come and have a golf day or a cheese and wine, or you host a conference and you spend all this money, because that's how the big businesses are doing it. And you're going to run out of funds very quickly. So everything that you do has to be not normal economics, but a breakthrough in methodology, in approach, and how you tackle things. So you actually need all your ideas need to not only be good and your actions, but they have to be a breakthrough. And that is what breakthrough economics is the looking at different aspects of the startup and the business world, and how tapping into every one of those aspects in a different way that is so mind-blowing that it's actually a breakthrough.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, it gives us a good understanding. So, when we spoke previously, you mentioned David and Goliath. So maybe if you just want to elaborate on that example you used then, because I found it quite interesting. So David was small, Goliath was big. Small companies are small, big companies are big. How does small beat big?
So everybody thinks that the story of David and Goliath starts with the fight itself. Okay, he had a sling, which in itself was a breakthrough in the methodology of fighting. Before, people fought with big axes and big swords, and David couldn't hold the big sword, didn't need close combat. So the breakthrough for David was really that the weapon that he used meant that he could shoot from a distance and try his luck as many times as possible. Eventually, he would hit the target. But that is not where the story of David and Goliath starts. The story of David and Goliath starts with David gaining the favor and the credibility from the king, where the king felt that he was willing to put it all on the line, that if he put David forward, David would win. And so that is really the key, is the board and the big startup are not going to take on your product and your startup. Sorry, the board of the big company are not going to take on your product if you don't have enough credibility that the person wanting to introduce you to the big business to use your services, if they don't believe that you are not going to embarrass them, you have to have success. They have to believe, because you've gained credibility, that if they put you forward, you're not going to mess up. So the key really is to gain the credibility before even being invited to speak in the boardroom. And that's the key. That's where some of the breakthrough ideas come from, is how do you actually get a seat at the boardroom? So that's where it fits in.
Yeah, and I think just on that point, it stands out that everything starts with action. So, I mean, you're not going to build credibility. You're not going to learn the lessons. You're not going to be able to grow if you don't even start by, getting out there and trying. So it's probably starts with taking action. And, in your business that you've run and, growing it to something not that small anymore, what would you say are some of the breakthrough economics that you used that actually worked very well for you specifically? And if you can name some of practical examples to make it as easy as possible to understand further.
Thank you. So we're about 3 years and 4 months in. Okay, and our revenue to date, billable hours, is 93 million rand. That's not bad, and that is still completely self-funded. So the first principle that one really needs to look at is adopting what we call a lean mindset. And in simple English is, don't spend any money. So before you start getting all glamorous about the office space and the reception area and the signage and having the latest laptops for all the directors and a secretary and a lacquer coffee machine, and why don't you all work from home, drink coffee, and try and build the product and use email? So the lean mindset is really that you don't want to spend money unnecessarily, but more than that, you don't want to commit to big expenses like rent, like salaries. So that's the first thing. There's a lot to cover, so I'm going to absolutely whiz through it. Okay. The next thing is that we are now in the middle of what we call the fourth industrial revolution. So breakthrough economics is that we need to try to understand what is the fourth industrial revolution. So it is not robots and robotics and flying cars and self-driving cars and Elon Musk and his rockets, and forget about all of that. The fourth industrial revolution means that the man and the woman on the street, the simple people like me and you, can afford the tools to be able to operate as professionally as any large business. Very affordable, very easy. Anybody can get a laptop. Anybody has internet access. Anybody has PDF creators, and anybody has creative artwork software and audio software. But we don't have to be an audio video business or a marketing agency to be able to do all that stuff. So it's the fact that we're in the fourth industrial revolution. It means that anybody can get the tools to be able to compete. It means that your barrier to entry, as compared to the big businesses of 15 years ago, the barrier to entry was hectic, impossible. You needed a big building, you needed internet, you needed video conferencing facilities. So the fourth industrial revolution means that the tools are available to all of us. It's a great starting point. Okay. The second thing is that in any business that you're going to go into, if you want to compete and if you want to beat, you can't just open a business that is going to be a normal business. You have to be a fantastic business. And in order to be a fantastic business and really hit a mark and a gap, you have to learn to be the observer of that industry. The only way to sometimes be the observer is to work in the industry for 10 to 15 years. So I always discourage startups from being startups straight out of varsity. Okay. But if they are, then the best thing that you can do is, before you start looking at all your big ideas, is maybe go see if you can work in the industry, just for free, even for 2 days of the week, because if that's the industry you want to break into, maybe see if you can wangle your way into one of the competitors and work there, one of the supply chain people, so that at least you can observe the industry before trying to be so Mr. Revolutionary or Mrs. Revolutionary. The next thing is the topic of disruption. Is there anything you want to say so far? Okay. The next thing is the topic of disruption. Disruption is very popular these days. Oh, she's a disruptor. I mean, she walks on water, She wears the Jimmy Choos. Unbelievable. Look at her. She's feeling it. Okay. The thing about disruption, and if you want to actually be a disruptor, is you need to understand that you need to change the way that you interact with the environment of that industry. And I'll give you an example of what was disrupted. Because the easy ones is Uber disrupted how you hail a taxi, and Airbnb is making locations available for everybody. Okay, so it's a different methodology in where you're going to stay and how you're going to find your stock as such. So if we look at windsurfing as an example, windsurfing had big boards, a big pole, and the sail, and it was the most fun you could have with wind and water in an extreme way. But in order to go further, higher, faster, they didn't make a bigger board with a bigger sail. Kite surfing disrupted windsurfing because they changed the methodology of how they interact with the wind and the water. Much smaller board that sticks on your feet with lines and a kite 20 meters in the air. What that meant was that when you hit that wave and you pull on the bar, the kite will take you 5, 6 stories up. You'll go 100 meters instead of 6 meters. So kite surfing disrupted windsurfing because the methodology and the way that they interact with the environment was so different that it was significantly better. And that is what disruption is about really looking at what are you trying to achieve and how can you do it in a way that's totally different to how it's currently being done, because no one has thought of, windsurfers weren't thinking of using kites. Okay. The next thing is consortiums. The actual business model itself. Like, what is a consortium? It's actually quite a fancy word. You think, consortium. Like, what does it even mean? So what a consortium is, it's actually like a group of entities. Okay. Now, if you think about any business, just a normal PTY or any business, small business, or even a big business, the people that run the different departments, they are entities. Each department is an entity. So what normally happens in a normal business is the business has a big bank account and they're able to hire people and pay salaries. It's a big business. In fact, most people that start small businesses do the exact same thing. Okay, we need a bank account, we need salaries, everybody's on a salary, we'll eventually make money. That's where they go wrong. Rather, you need different functions to be done in the business. Okay? Each one of those functions is an entity, part of a consortium. If you can have a shared arrangement, a predefined arrangement that says, okay, listen, Jack and Jill and Paul and Sipho, we are going to target this market as an advertising agency, social media agency. You're going to do the design work, you're going to do the sales work, you're going to do the accounting work, and Harry's going to make the tea, whatever. Let's go out there and try and find some clients. Let's go out there and try and do some work for some clients. And when that client pays the consortium, which is actually a business, it's a business entity, has a bank account and registered and all that. But when the client pays the consortium, we will split the money this way. Everybody for what they've done gets a split shared portion of the money that comes in. That's how consortium works. If you look at big roadworks or if you look at massive buildings, the people that do the bricks and the people that do the cement and the people that the architects, it's one massive consortium of companies. The main difference is that everybody is a commission earning contractor instead of a full-time salaried employee. So the mindset of building any startup is we don't have to build it as salaried employees, normal business, but if we can operate as a consortium, what we call an organized collaborative, with an understanding that when the money comes in, we will split the money. But obviously no one is there flippantly or on an ad hoc basis. It's a proper commitment. Folks, we're starting this business, but as a consortium. Everybody has a vested interest in the success of the business and the happiness of the client. Because if the client pays, we'll all get paid. How about that, folks? And let me tell you, we Virtual Actuary operates as a consortium of actuaries. When the client pays, we split the money. That's how the business works. And then I guess one of the last points, and then we can elaborate on all the stuff, is that we are now moving away, in my opinion, from the corporate brand world and moving into the you as a brand world. So just an easy example is if you want to go buy shampoo or if you want to watch a TV show, okay, you're not going to go to, let's say, Mnet or DSTV or one of these other big organizations where they give you the programming and it's all organized and you go watch that brand, that corporate brand. Rather, you like Mpho. He does an unbelievable fashion show about dressing and about making clothing, and she even does cooking. She's an influencer. She is the brand. And so when you're looking to have entertainment and you're looking to, she also does teaching. She's actually a learning institution. She will teach you how to make clothes. So you're going to go set up a sign up at like one of the universities, or you're going to sign up with Mpho that does unbelievable learning and teaching. She's got 30,000 followers. She does a course, costs you 1,000 Rand. You will learn how to do a trade of sewing and stitching. Look at her clothing. She sells it at YDE. She was at London Fashion Week. Unbelievable. You're following Mpho as the brand instead of the big university as the brand when you want to consume education and entertainment. So Mpho has to build up herself as a brand. She didn't go to a university and say, I want to teach. Can I teach through your university? Anybody that signs up, you'll pay me as an employee, as a teacher. No, she decided to be the brand. She decided to market herself alone. And she has people that help her with the camera work and with the editing and so on. And when she gets money in, she pays them. So that's basically how breakthrough economics works if we look at a few different aspects of business.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for that. And I think a recurring topic that you mentioned is lean, being lean as a startup. And so many times in interviews like these, the book The Lean Startup pops up, and that's just a phenomenal book because everybody's.
I haven't read it yet, by the way, but go on.
But you're speaking about it anyway. So many times we watch series, for example, and we watch Suits or we watch all these business series, and we think that is how business operates. Or we see someone we admire, and we see these massive buildings, and they get dinner every night and fancy parties. But I think many times it is just getting back to the basics and core focus, and especially in a startup, there's going to be sacrifice, especially in the early stages for the founders, and also the early employees. It's going to be a lot of commitment and a lot of dedication towards the vision. So yeah, the leanness of starting a business is something that I see pops up a lot, and then also the part of taking action. You're not going to be able to beat big if you don't even start small. So I think that's more for the entrepreneurs out there wanting to start businesses in the future. Is you have to start somewhere, and then the third aspect, which you mentioned, is it's probably good to learn from people that has done it before. So that is part of mentorship. So growing a network and building a network where you also get mentored along the way, because every business and every founder and every CEO learns lessons along the way, some painful and some amazing. And if you can have someone that has walked the journey before you actually teaching you is phenomenal. So I don't know if you want to change or add anything to that as a final point.
Yeah, thanks. So the first thing is try not to learn from people that are scared, and people that even though they have business experience, they don't have business experience with no budget. It's a very important point. It's easy to go to a business person that's been a CFO at a large corporation and ask them about running a business. And they will just say, well, you need to do the market research. You need to understand your product functions. And, that takes a lot of research. And why don't you go and do some learning? Like, listen here, buddy, you've had all this budget. I don't have time or money for flipping research papers. Okay. Just tell me a little bit about how to get clients. Practical. He doesn't know how to get clients because he has a sales department that gets clients. All he really knows is how to read research papers. So my point is that it's very important that the person that you look up to and ask advice from is a person that has actually walked the startup journey.
Mm.
So the second thing is that, a lot of startups, their default is funding. We need funding. Okay, we can't build this product. We can't market this product. We need a funder. We need an investor. And so that is absolutely not the case, because if you get a funder and an investor right at the beginning, or any, like even in the first 3 or 4 years, you're going to get a little bit of money and you'll give up a lot of equity and shares in the business. And that's a major problem, because if the business becomes a unicorn, or if the business becomes a multi-million rand business, and here's this person that is already living in a big house, now the big macha, the big strategic advisor that gave you 300,000 rand, the business is pushing out 100 million rand a year, and he's a 50% shareholder. For what? For giving you 300,000 rand at the beginning. You will be very disappointed if that is actually what played itself out. So the key is to go as long as possible and to actually grow the business through revenue from clients. Okay. The second thing, without getting too complicated, and I want to talk on the subject of clients. In fact, I'm going to speak on the subject of clients first. You have a product, you have a service. Beg somebody, but actually beg somebody. Go to their house, clean their pool, rub their feet, beg them to let you use your product in their business for free. You will spend day and night there. You will be there 12 o'clock at night. You will do whatever you need to do for 6 months or a year if they will incorporate your product into their business and just get the product working. Because if that is the case and you can get 4 or 5 people to do that, then after a year or 2 or 3, it doesn't matter if you haven't made any money. It doesn't matter. But after 3 or 4 years, you have clients that are using your product. And now you actually have something you can talk about. And then the 5th client that you speak to, not only will you have credibility, but you'll be able to justify charging them. Clients are the most important thing. Learn how to beg. Okay? Honestly, learn how to beg. Put your pride aside and flip and beg people to incorporate your product or your service into their business. Okay? Then on a last point, in a way, very complicated topic, but at the moment you have, let's say, 100% shares in your business. They are equal value shares. Okay, what you actually want to do, because you'll have a memorandum of incorporation and a shareholder agreement, which is stock standard when you register a business, in a way. What you actually want is you want to be able to take your share class and split it into founder shares and investor shares. And what you really want is that, let's say, 30% ownership in the business, the founder shares, have, from a weighted perspective, from a voting rights perspective, have over 51% voting rights in the shareholder meetings. You split it, which means that the 70%, the other shares are the 70% are investor shares. So each person in the business will have some founder shares and some investor shares. But you should be able to sell, if you wanted to, in 10 years' time, 70% ownership in the business. But those 70% investor shares, which are owner shares, they only have voting rights of 49%. So what that means is that the remaining 30% founder shares that have gotten rid of 70% ownership in the business can still control the business in any boardroom or in any shareholder meeting. So that means if you get an aggressive investor that gives you 25 million rand or 50 million rand, whatever it is, that they will never be able to tell you what to do in how to operate the business. Of course, there's restrictions. So where people get that wrong is when they sell shares, they have the term sheet from the investor, and those term sheets are very, very aggressive towards you. And what that means is that you just literally, there's dilution, and every time you need to do a round of raising, they insist, and they vote on it. They insist that if anybody's going to dilute shares, it's you. So what happens is eventually, and then they'll say to you, well, would you rather have 5% of a billion-rand business, or would you rather have 100% of nothing? Do you know what the answer is? I'd rather have 35% of a billion-rand business, not 5%. So all I'm saying is that you just need to be smart about bringing an investor in if you want to later on, but split your share class. It's a bit of a complicated topic, but it's one that you don't hear often at all.
Yeah, and I think that comes in where if you can get someone on board in your startup, if you haven't been through it before, to actually help you with all these nitty-gritties and governance is actually essential. It's helped me a lot. It's helped so many startups a lot. It's just getting someone, who's been through it before, but like you said, not someone that's just never seen a startup grow, but someone that's actually been through the same as you. Adi, thank you so much for your wisdom and your input and your knowledge. It was great to hear what you have to say regarding breakthrough economics and how small can be big. For those watching, remember to like and subscribe for future videos like these. We'll definitely have Adi again in the future. I hope you have a great day.
Excellent.